is this kind of information. So that could then be translated into, gee, kids, let's make a movie, right? And that's another part of the story, is that how is it that this information flows back to guide both the professionals at some level and the teachers and students at another level to actually produce what's missing, so that it kind of folds back on itself, right? My interest is, I mean, we haven't gotten to a point where I can really start to do what I'm most interested in with all of this. But this is a mediation system. It's like this TV station is and your TV at home, right? This is the way that, this is a different kind of pipe that will allow people to put things in one end and people to get them out the other end in a way that works for them. And what you put in it and how that does it, how that grows, how that needs a whole lot of other people working on that in a whole lot of different ways. This is a mediation system. That's what the primary technology design is, and that's been designed to reflect the kind of learning inquiry that we've been having all along. What's that? Yeah. Thank you. Before I jump, I'm about to go in and show the authoring tools and how the authoring system works to make creating a continuum of information that allows learners to do what we've just described so easily, how that works. Before I do, is there any questions or people would like to go into the learner interface itself and how it functions or its intentions or? Okay.
Suppose if I wanted to write an article about those tomorrow.
Right.
And I wanted to create my own informational source, put everything in there so for future use. This tool is being used in a history class, and I'm doing this as a student in that class, and I want to use all this. Is that database large enough, or do I import that data from something else that I might be using in that classroom and import it into this mediation system after I once get it all?
Both. I think that ultimately the database structure for the large storage of things as it grows is this structure. And in the short term, you can import anything from any structure into it. Okay? So that when we start, from a purely technical point of view, I want to make an argument as we unfold all of this, that on top of what you've been seeing from our conversation about learning, and aside from the conversation we've been having about learning interface, the learner interface side, there's another conversation which is purely technological, which has to do with how can we correlate learning resources around similar meaning intentions according to a different kind of geometry, a distribution of related materials, and process everything according to that. And that's another side of this that some people would really have trouble with.
Then I want to get to my real question.
Yeah.
My real question is, I'm the learner, and I create this, and I import this data in, and I create this particular story.
Right.
Store and say.
Right.
What if I put bad data in for the next person coming along, and it's not correct information? How do you monitor it?
Well, there's a number of different levels that would have to monitor that. I mean, there's nothing in this system here that can interpret the validity. It's a mediation system, okay? I mean, ultimately, things like that will evolve, but that's not the point. This is not about artificial intelligence. This is about learner intelligence. You know? So the point would be that if somebody did create something like that, it would go through some kind of review process before it actually got filtered into being generally available for people. And that, I mean, that's a problem irregardless of this system. It's a general problem in the way that locally produced materials can participate in some kind of a larger system, the ecology of learning resources. Yeah.
Is there, you mentioned the interface with the internet. Is there, in your mind, going to be something in your mind are there limitations in your concept here as to how much a human being is capable?
It's a relevant question. I mean, maybe we'll get to that someday, but it's irrelevant right now. I mean, the point is to remove the obstacles to allow somebody to really grow into what their real capacities are. And if we find out that, yeah, there's some kind of hard box that we're in down the road, then we find that out. At the moment, that's not the case. I mean, we've got capacities that are seemingly infinitely beyond what we're aware of, and the reason that we're not rising to those capacities is we learn not to use them. Yeah. Again, this is ultimately a learner interface like a television set, a particular way to unfold the channel you want from the field of radio waves out there in the world, and a transmission system designed to take whatever we want to put on the air today and put it out there, right? And I mean, that's an analogy. We can't take that all away, but it doesn't care what particular kind of movie's running on what particular kind of channel. And no. That's why I said the analogy is somewhat limited. It's really not wireless. It can be. That's another story. We have a technology called the pipeline, which could be applied to satellites and other things to create a environment that would be radically different than today's networks and servers that would support this. But at the moment, think of this as being CD-ROM powered, as being slow-speed network powered, as being information provided over telephone modems and so forth, and not necessarily requiring radio transmission per se, but functioning as if it was, so that as you as a teacher or you as an author generate some material, you can drop it into that kind of shared space so that it becomes a resource at the learner interface level, the way I've been describing.
And David, if we had large curriculum databases that different states were creating, we had some kind of system around that, and they could access any curriculum.
Again, I mean, if we think about it in terms of, like I started with this morning, if everyone asked questions from a point of view of, I'm a learner right now, right here, and I have a number of different kinds of obstacles to learning that I've experienced, right? Like how do I get to the right ballpark in all this information flood out there? Let alone how do I get to the right piece? How do I even get into the ballpark? Because that's a different question. Then once I'm in the ballpark, how do I get to the right seat? Then how do I adjust the seat and all the rest of it? That the learner interface that we're talking about is a cockpit for flying through all of that in a way that doesn't require me to know in some conditioned way all of the structures out there, but just know what's not working for me right now so it can unfold. Yeah, that speaks to the difference between the kind of empirical, inferential, and experiential learning we talked about, even about how we might approach today. And there's a dramatic correlation between whether something is inferential or deeply felt, experienced home in terms of its ability to participate at a transfer learning level. I mean, the more that something has really gone home, the more that it's there to dynamically and creatively and genuinely participate in whatever I'm doing if it's relevant. And the more that it's just been memorized, the more that all of the context that went with it has to be remembered to bring it back, and the less that it can really transfer into my overall experiencing. So this kind of learning is essential for transfer of learning issues as well. And there's a big distinction to be made between this authentic experience and remembering what somebody else said, or placing some value on it according to what something else was rather than according to my experience.